Is Ghost of Tsushima Legends worth playing in 2022? Ghost of Tsushima Legends will be free on PS Plus in a few days, so I thought I'd head back to the multiplayer of Ghost of Tsushima and see if it was as good as I remember. I lost all my previous progress, which annoyed me because I was fully leveled up on all of my classes with the raid completed on my PS4 version of the game, but I can't be mad because Ghost of Tsushima Legends is incredible, especially because it's free. So I'm going to try and spoil as little as possible when talking about Legends, and if you think this is just an easy add-on, you'll be surprised how much there is to spoil. Sit back, relax, and let me help you figure out if you want to get addicted to an awesome multiplayer experience. Right, this is the multiplayer, so let's get the big one out of the way. How is the progression? So you have 4 classes: Samurai, Hunter, Assassin, and Ronin, each with their own unique abilities, and each class has more than one ability with their own customizable elements. Every mission you earn a new piece of gear, which could be a sword, bow, or ghost weapons that will have specific attributes, so some weapons will light enemies on fire, or another may heal you after a perfect parry. So the big takeaway here is customization. Every single item will have these attributes and are all varied, and while you may see some attributes consistently, there will always be a surprise every few hours, especially once you start earning legendary gear. Along with items, your specific class can rank up. I think I got my original samurai rank up to level 50, I think, maybe more, but along with these levels you will unlock techniques. For example, as a samurai you'll earn the timed ability where your sword strikes add explosions to your attacks, or you can get 2 more strikes in your class's ability, which is Hachimon's Fury, I think that's how you say it. And each class has unique gameplay elements which become necessary in later levels to even have a chance of beating them. So the Ronin class can heal everyone at once, or the Hunter class can take out a bunch of different enemies at range. So progression is fantastic, and you have a variety of ways to progress, whether you want to play survival for a round-based game mode where you just slaughter waves of enemies with your friends, or randoms, or you can have more linear levels with specific goals, and that's a good time to talk about replay value. The first time you play Legends Story Mode, the levels will be more normal, but you'll notice there is a bronze, silver, or gold option as you level up, which completely switches up the objectives with additional powerful enemies and new side objectives like Oni Treasure, which really ramps up the difficulty. So if you don't save your biggest move for the toughest opponents, you might smash a controller or two, especially when you get to Nightmare missions. Nightmare missions are your weekly missions that are updated every week, which reward you with a piece of legendary gear once completed, and it's worth doing. And while those missions are worth doing, there are definitely easier missions compared to the ones you could get every week, so it's up to you which ones you want to tackle, but I'd recommend tackling every single one. But there are certain missions that are much more difficult than you'd expect, so you're much better off grabbing a friend or a random you met and try to beat these missions, because it's awesome and it's worth it in the end. So that's just the progression bit. Let's talk about those game modes, and then I'll mention the gameplay, which I have a lot to say about, and spoiler, it's good. So I've mentioned the story mode, and while the story itself is ass unless you really listen to the tales that are told throughout the missions, there's no giant cutscenes or anything like that, just a narrator giving you some sort of narrative motivation to keep pushing forward, and I really like this approach. You don't play multiplayer games for the story most of the time, and since this was a free add-on, this could have very easily been a rush mode, but a lot of effort went into making these missions to keep them challenging and fun, as well as give some sort of motivation narratively to keep pushing forward, so there really isn't many negative things to say. I would say the enemies can feel a bit too bloated, but that really is only an issue when you're really under-leveled, because you have a variety of ways to take them out through smoke bombs or sticky bombs, kunai, explosive arrows, etc. You also have survival mode with multiple maps with different level designs. You still have the main objective, which is to keep waves of enemies from taking over a specific area of the level, but each map has their own design, so one level is basically completely flat and it's all about keeping everyone in specific spots, whereas one level has a bunch of grapple options and verticality, making it less about chilling in one spot and more about managing how much time you spend on a specific point so you can get to your ally and provide support as your specific class. Survival also requires you to work together with the different classes. My personal pick is Samurai, as I love that class's ability to wipe out 5 enemies in a matter of seconds. It's so much fun. But you have the Ronin class, which is the backbone of the group that provides healing to everyone when needed, and still be effective in combat if you know what you're doing, while a Hunter keeps at range and is a class more effective with a bow, picking your target slowly and methodically to be the most effective. It really is insane how much variety this one mode offers with the different classes, but that doesn't include the various ghost weapons that can provide healing for your team or make you a badass for a few seconds to save the game. It's super intense and some of the most fun I've had in a multiplayer game, and it was free. The survival mode also has its own weekly nightmare challenge that is incredibly tough if you don't have a Ronin, because you can level up as much as you want, but you could never beat this mode by yourself. It's just impossible, but I'm sure someone's probably done it by now, because you can get really good at this game, like really good if you try. I often challenge myself to get through missions without being hit once, and it is tough but doable. So if it's challenge you're looking for, this is a great game for that. Then we have Rivals, which is an addition that I haven't played much of, as I only just got back into Legends. This mode puts 8 players into a game and you battle it out as teams of 4 against AI to get the best score. It's simple and effective and really scratches that itch for a super competitive mode, but I haven't spent much time on it, as I've spent most of my time leveling up again after I lost all my progress, so I can wipe you noobs out when you join from PlayStation Plus. This mode will really put your team to the test, and I do think if you really want to win, you should play with a group of mates. However, the community on Legends is actually really friendly, and I'm sure you can still win if you prioritize helping your team rather than trying to be that guy that goes around taking every kill in sight. It would have been nice to have a competitive mode where you face other players, you know, like a duel mode or something like that, but since it's free, I'm not going to moan too much about it. But if there is a sequel, I would really like that, because the combat is really good and I really want to, you know, beat some enemies and hear them cry on the mic or something. I really want that. I really want that. Lastly, and I can't believe they added this for free, but you have the Tales of Io, or EO, whatever, however you say it, and this is a raid. A raid was added for free. Let that sink in. There is 3 sections to this raid. Well, really, it's 3 raids with 2 breaks that put everything to the test. Your teamwork, skill, progression, and knowledge of how Legends works. It's incredible what they added for free, and while it's not the most complicated raid in the world, it still offers a really great challenge that requires a lot of communication to beat and is so much fun. I won't be showing you any of it to avoid spoilers, but just know when you and your mates attempt it, you will probably argue multiple times about who messed up and not talk to each other for hours after, but at least you beat the raid. It's worth ruining your friendship over. Now, while the raid does offer most of the really great rewards, you could still basically get all the cosmetic stuff outside of the raid, as it's not random to earn it. You earn everything apart from gear through challenges like leveling up your class or defeating specific enemies. That really adds to the progression, as most games now decide to make rewards completely random rather than actually giving you goals and incentive to play the damn game and challenge yourself, and I know why that is. The priority with Legends was gameplay and, most importantly, fun. There are absolutely, and I mean this, absolutely no microtransactions in this game. There are no shortcuts. If you see a guy with a badass sword effect or specific armor, you know that player earned that gear. They didn't buy it, they didn't earn it by complete random chance, they earned it by doing what most probably won't do, and that makes you want that gear even more. It's pretty amazing how something that was integral to multiplayer games 10 years ago would become something I praised so heavily in 2022, and it was a free addition, guys. That isn't even everything. I haven't talked about cursed gear or legendary challenges, etc. There is so much content, and while you will face the end at some point, as this game mode is free, when you reach the end like I did years ago before the raid was added, you will feel like it was worth it. It was worth the time and effort because you finished it, you beat it. There is nothing wrong with having an end, and I think most multiplayer games forget that these days. Lastly, gameplay. If you've enjoyed this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing. Thank you. So this section will go a little bit more in depth on enemy variety and gear, but it won't be too long as I've mentioned most of it already. This is Ghost of Tsushima on crack. You have a bunch of different enemy types, from Oni enemies, which are giant brutes that are easily the toughest enemies in the game. Then you have Raven enemies, which cast a bunch of crows that drain your health quicker than your balls after a Lana Rhodes video. As well as ghosts, archers, and then a mix of all of them along with your classic enemies from the story mode of Tsushima. Each of these enemies offers something unique to the combat, requiring different stances and abilities to effectively take them on, especially stealth in later sections. You need to work together to take some of these enemies out, as some of them can be linked to each other, so if you only take one out and don't take another out in a specific amount of time, the enemy you just took out will be revived. So teamwork is essential to get the best time, which adds another level of intensity, and while surely that's frustrating, right, having work be removed, no, it's actually really fun to take these guys on, and if they get revived, you know you messed up. These tougher missions and enemy variety really makes your abilities important. If you're running the assassin class, you want to equip a smoke bomb to do as much stealth damage as possible before you take them on, but if you're the hunter, you need to run a bow that heals you every time you get a headshot or something like that. There are so many choices to take these guys on, and it doesn't feel cheap. If you die, you messed up. There are no excuses. You didn't dodge, or you ran in like an idiot without the correct equipment. It's balanced and it's fun. In my experience, there has been really no bugs. There's no enemies cheaply killing you or disappearing. It's pretty flawless when it comes to bugs and performance, so there's not many negative things, and the 60 FPS is really nice on PS5. So it really is a great experience that you really won't get from many multiplayer games today. The gameplay section is a lot smaller than I expected, because I mentioned most of it in previous sections. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is free on PS Plus today or in a few days, depending on when this is uploaded. I absolutely recommend you play it and waste many hours doing so. Thank you for watching.